So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So we need to unpack that because there are a couple of things going on here. I guess I'm going to use this whole board. You know me and boards. I fill them up. Okay, so we're going to go God picture. And in Genesis 1, we're going to look at God picture and human value. Remember their issues. Issue was, number one was, their God picture was really messed up. How they saw God was twisted, distorted. But further, linked to that is how they saw themselves and how they saw creation. So, when we go into Genesis, we're going to have to ask some questions. And one of the things is, when it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So God, we already tell, God was here at the beginning before there was anything. He existed. He was. But second, it says God created. That word in the Hebrew, bara, which you know, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. The bara is the word for create, but it's only used with God. Only God can bara. So whatever that is, only God can do it. So let's unpack that. It says he was creator. What do we mean by that? See, I hear that and I go, okay, he created. But we still don't listen to the word. What does creator mean? Let's write down. Originator. Originator. What else does it mean? What else does it create?
Invent or former.
Form, okay. I would say invent is probably not an accurate word the way we think of invent, but what else? So I'm asking you to use your brain a little bit. Think about the word create, and what does it mean?
Of himself.
Okay, so built. Does create, the way it's used, mean to build?
Yeah.
Bring into being. What do you mean by being? It's awesome.
Maker.
For something to exist or to be, to live.
So, also bring into existence. That means that's different than inventing and changing stuff around or building and moving stuff. That is calling into existence something that had no existence. Calling something into being that did not be. That was not. You got it. You really have to think about that. So what was he calling into being? Well, it's from himself. Comes out of him. Because his imagination, his view, his will, we might say. So, when we talk about create, this idea of bringing into existence, what does that mean he was really about? If you bring something into existence, what are you bringing it into?
Life.
Life. He is life giver. Life giver. That's going to become really important. So, creator means life giver, right? Caller into existence. The one, all we have to do is ask, how many of us can do that? Only God can do that because only God has the power of being within himself. I'm doing a study on Saturdays, and we are doing John. And John taps right into this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things through him were made. Without him, nothing was made that was made. Nothing came into existence without him. So, he not only is life giver, but you notice that he created, well, at the beginning there was nothing. In fact, to try to describe nothing is really hard. It's no thing. There was no thing. Right? How do you describe that except saying, well, the earth, what was it before? It was empty, which means nothing inside. And there was no form, so it had no shape, no size, no... Because you're trying to get at what something was before it was. Like, what were you before you were you? You were no thing. Right? Eventually you came to be an egg, but you need something else with that. So you weren't until you were. Now God is the calling into, the one who calls into being. I can't stress that enough if you really sit and think about that. Because nothing else can do that. No one else can do that. That's why bara means life giver. Means caller into existence, because he did what to create? He spoke. Means his voice, his command, and things come into being. So he is also commander of life. Okay, and then we see, so what did he start with when he created? Himself. Well, he was the one who would call everything out. But what did he start with? What's the first thing? Let there be light. So he's light giver, isn't he? Why light? Why light? Light is a necessity for everything to live. Right? Nothing lives without light. When you have darkness, you see everything comes to a halt. But even more than that, when he's giving light, what is he also giving? Life. Because this isn't the end. He didn't just create light. And light was not created primarily for itself, just in and of itself to be for itself. Light finds its true meaning when it is in the life-giving process. This is an expression of who? Of God, the life-giver. So, light, by itself, would really have no meaning. So we already see this is a God of relationship and relationships. Okay, so he created light. Light, it said, let there be light, and there was light. So he can command not just life, but for it to come into being and form. And it said he created light, and then what? He made a division between what? Light and dark. You notice that he didn't get rid of darkness. What was he doing? A distinction. So he was structuring, wasn't he? Giving order. But I used to think, okay, God, he's a God of order, but that is not really what's going on. I mean, it is, but it's not for just being orderly.
Well,
why would you put something in order? Let me take it from that approach.
Well, I was thinking more in terms of the whole scope from day 1 through day 6.
Okay.
I wasn't thinking about.
You're going exactly where I'm talking about. When he's organizing, when he's ordering.
At the end of it, that's where you see the systematic approach.
So you see a vision of God that when he was creating light, he was looking forward.
But there's a bigger picture though, and I just recognized this last Sabbath. I was back in Genesis 1, which I do every Sabbath, and the way changed my whole perspective on how to work, and what God expects of me. And that what He revealed to me, and it shocked me, He works with the goal, the end goal in mind. And so the goal was, the end goal was relationship, and I'm trying to remember exactly how I wrote it. But nevertheless, He works with the goal in mind, and each day there's a sequence in which he structures his day and he follows, and he doesn't go outside of what he is purposed to create for this particular day. In that way, he maintains structure, order, and work, and that day is a contributing factor to the overall goal.
That's exactly right. And the very thing you're talking about, and this is what I want you to see, God, in order to do that, what does God have to have? What skill, we might say, use that term, in order to do that?
Prescience.
Patience?
Be able to, not patience, but prescience, being able to tell the future, know what's going to happen in the future.
Oh, okay, so he has to be able to see the future, right.
Yes.
But he also is showing the ability to see forward, the seeing where he's headed. That would be planner.
Well, I was getting ready to say.
And when you're talking about order, you're talking about there's an intent. So when you're talking about planner, that's intention, isn't it?
Intentionality, right?
In other words, I have an intention and I'm moving toward that. Another word we call that is will. God's will, God's intention, God's plan. That's really important because it shows God knew where he was headed before he even called light into existence.
So everything he did had a purpose.
Everything he does, yes, everything he did has a purpose. And you're going to find, as we go through this, that the purpose becomes really clear because of who God is.